What's going on, guys, and welcome to another edition of Dissect the Saga. Today I'll be looking at the sequel to the 2000 X-Men, which is 2003's X2 X-Men United. Now before I start, I do need to make one small correction. In my last video, I said I'd be dissecting the X-Men franchise up until Deadpool. Well, when I said that, I was still in Chronicle mode from when I reviewed the X-Men timeline and went over which movies belong in which part of the canon, so I apologize for that. I'll actually be dissecting the X-Men franchise up until X-Men Apocalypse, which came out in May of this year. I'm also thinking of adding Logan to it since its release is happening pretty much around the time I'll be done with this entry. So, I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. But for now, let's get started with the review of X2 X-Men United. Now this movie, along with countless other three-part films, if we're talking just the original trilogy, is a lot like other trilogies for me where I always like the second one best out of the three. X2 is my favorite for a couple of reasons. Reasons like the action got a lot better, the effects were easier to look at without puking, and of course, we saw a bit more of everyone's powers. The film opens up with probably one of the coolest action scenes in superhero films, when Nightcrawler sneaks into the White House and uses his acrobatic skills and teleportation to not only take down all the president's guards, but also break into the Oval Office in an attempt to kill the president. You're probably thinking, wait, I thought Nightcrawler was a good guy. Well, he is. And to me, that's what makes this scene so amazing, because X-Men fans who saw this movie for the first time were so confused as to why one of the X-Men are now trying to pull a Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, the reason behind it was because he was brainwashed into doing it by our main villain William Stryker, who we see in a minute. The movie then cuts to a field trip to a museum where we see Jean having a little bit of a struggle controlling her powers. The thing that I really like about this movie is Jean Grey's character development. This film really starts her transition into the Phoenix, which is way more refreshing to see than just the underrated hot chick with no personality that she was in the last film. She just feels so much more three-dimensional. After a small and kind of unneeded altercation at the food court between Iceman, Pyro, and a couple of super generic-looking early 2000s kids, the X-Men hear about the incident at the White House and decide to send Storm and Jean to track down Nightcrawler before the authorities do, for fear of the Mutant Registration Act becoming a possibility again. While that's going on, William Stryker, a man who's very involved in Wolverine's past, gets the green light from the White House to investigate the school for the gifted for the purpose of finding out more about the attack. At least, that's what he tells them. He actually wants to get inside the mansion to replicate Cerebro for his own use. SWAT cops enter the building, while only Wolverine is there, which once again creates a very, very cool scene. I mean, you can feel every slice and stab in this thing because it just doesn't let you catch your breath. While the action in X-Men was kind of underplayed, the producers of this film knew which stuff to throw at us at the right time. It's fast-paced, and it slows down, then it's fast-paced again. The funny thing is, I actually wasn't too crazy for Wolverine's fight scenes the most in the first movie as much because they looked too much like an arm-flailing spasms. But they've made good use and caused him to not only better his use of his claws, but also the intimidation that's supposed to come with it. Anyway, Magneto escapes from his plastic cell thanks to Mystique, who injected iron into the guard who delivers Magneto's meals. Magneto rips the iron from his body, causing him to die, and creates 3 silver balls to destroy his prison. After that, we see that Wolverine, Iceman, Rogue, and Pyro have escaped from the mansion and have fled to Boston to Iceman's home, where after a scene between Iceman and his family and a painfully obvious metonymy, we get another badass scene of Pyro blowing the shit out of cop cars in a heated rage. Storm, Jean, and Nightcrawler meet up with the others, and they eventually enlist the help of Magneto and Mystique to stop Stryker, who's not only brainwashed other mutants to work for him like Lady Deathstrike, but also kidnapped and manipulated the Professor into using the second Cerebro to find and kill every mutant in the world. Of course, this doesn't go very far, and eventually Stryker is defeated. Magneto, Mystique, and Pyro, who's now decided to give up on being the good guy, escape in a plane, while the rest of the team escapes in the jet. Sadly, Jean has to end up sacrificing herself to save the others when the jet won't start. Film ends with Professor X relaying a message to the president that a war between mutants and humans is about to come since Magneto escaped. Maybe my bias is showing, but I love this movie. I do. I think it's the best of the original trilogy, hands down. It's perfectly paced, perfectly acted, every piece of the plot fits and makes sense. There are scenes that are just dedicated to exposition, sure, but they don't drag on. And as I said, the action in this film kicks ass. And something else that I think is really, really cool is the character development that we see not only in Jean Grey, but in Wolverine. I mean, in the first movie, we barely tapped into Wolverine's past. And looking back, I think that's for good reason, because if the movie just opened up with him returning to the base, it would just kind of feel forced and came out of nowhere. But because we had a lead-in from the first movie, this one just fits so much more. Though the same cannot be said about Jean, who you really don't see too much of her Phoenix alter ego in the first movie. Hell, you barely even see it in this one. You really just see her having a struggle with it. So, while Wolverine got the best of both worlds in both the movies, Jean kind of got the opposite. Now, to be fair, we do see more of her Phoenix side in Last Stand, but that also kind of feels a little forced. And now it's time for Under Over, a segment where I give meaningless virtual awards to the acting and quotes that were both over the top and underappreciated. Award for most over-the-top acting goes to Aaron Stanford's portrayal of Pyro, who, at the end of the day, is just a super over-the-top angsty teenager, and I hate it.
You know all those dangerous mutants you hear about on the news? I'm the worst one.
Award for most underappreciated acting goes to Alan Cummings' portrayal of Nightcrawler, who did a better job of playing him than he did Loki.
You know, outside of the circus, most people were afraid of me.
Award for most over-the-top movie quote goes to that metonymy I mentioned earlier.
Have you tried not being a mutant?
Because, you know, that's how that works. Award for most underappreciated quote goes to Magneto's take on the facts of life.
Mr. Lorio, never trust a beautiful woman, especially one who's interested in you.
Kinda wish someone told me that. That was X2. Hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, a sub, and share. Next week, I'll tackle the last of the original trilogy, which is X-Men The Last Stand, so keep an eye out for it. Have a good one, everybody.
Loud.